All right, welcome back. We are in court again this week. We started trials in Horry this morning, and we started pleas in Georgetown. So even though it's getting up around that season with Thanksgiving and Christmas, we are continuously working through a lot of these cases. And it's a murder trial in Horry. It should take, it's a stand your ground to start with. But it should take probably until about Thursday. So next week I'll let you know how that one goes, and I'll let you know about some of the significant pleas that take place in Georgetown. Last week we were in trial. We had a couple of pleas that drew some interest. One was Bomar, 34 of Myrtle Beach. She pled guilty to a trafficking case for heroin, and she pled guilty to a distribution or possession with intent to distribute cocaine. She received 15 years on the heroin charge, and she received 10 years on the cocaine charge, but those will run concurrently. And what that means is, as she's serving the 15 on the heroin charge, she'll also be serving at the same time the 10-year sentence. The only time that plays a big role is if you hear the judge say consecutive. That means once you finish the first term, then you got to start on the second. So it would be like a 25-year sentence. But she got 15 and 10, and she gets to serve them concurrently. So she's looking at 15 years in prison for those distribution and trafficking cases. In another courtroom, we had Robert Dale Buckley. He's 35 years old, another Myrtle Beach person. He pled guilty to criminal sexual conduct with a minor. In that case, the judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. The juvenile was a family member, and she is obviously been removed from that household. The main thing about that is all of those guys live in North Carolina now. They were here, they spoke, all of them are pleased with the sentence of 15 years, and Robert Buckley will be going away for that. Once he gets out of prison, he will have to wear an ankle monitor for the rest of his life. That is one of the collateral consequences that come along with pleading to criminal sexual conduct with a minor. So he'll serve on that 15-year sentence and then be on constant monitoring for the rest of his life. Finally, last week we had a young man, Eric Falk. He is 24 years old. He killed his stepfather. I guess it would be his stepfather, but what made this even more important is that the stepfather, the decedent, is Odell Cochran. Odell Cochran was a veteran of the Conway Police Department. I knew him. He had been retired a few years, but in living in his retirement, it seems that this stepson was angry with him. There was quite a bit about Mr. Odell was putting the son out and telling him to go and make a living on his own. The stepson, Falk, 24, went and shot his stepdad several times, killing him. I was out there that night with Horry County Police and Conway City Police. It was actually in Mr. Odell lived in the unincorporated area of Horry County, but almost 4 decades of service. Great guy. That case, he pled to voluntary manslaughter. The state had recommended no less than 20 years and no more than 25 years for the plea. The judge ruled on the lower side of that. Obviously, there was several competency issues, and we think in every case there's competency. That's not really true. When you have a competency hearing, you've got to show that the person is competent to even be in a trial. So you would have to bring in a doctor or a report, and a person would have to sit down with basically a state psychiatrist to determine whether or not they could help their defense. On a small percentage of cases, we have to do that. In this case, he was found to be competent to stand trial, but I can't help but to believe that that played a big part in the judge's decision to give him 20 years. Again, the recommendation was between 20 and 25, and Eric Falk got the low end of that at 20 years. There were probably 100 other pleas that went on last week, but those are some of the bigger ones. Of course, again, this week we're in trial, and we'll also have guilty pleas going on not only in Horry but in Georgetown. And I'll be back next week to update you on the progress of the courts this week.